r/AskReddit. Serious. Students of Reddit who had a sexual relationship with a teacher. How did it start and how did it turn out? Not safe for work. When I was a senior in high school, I was a member of a club. We went to state for a competition and won, which got us into nationals. Nationals was during the summer. So technically I wasn't a student anymore, and was in California. On the last day my room phone rang. It was the teacher who had been hosting our trip. I had known her for 4 years and she was my favorite teacher. She asked me to come over to her room. I went over there and surprisingly, to me at least, she tried to kiss me. It was so out of left field from me. She could tell that I wasn't into it and she apologized and that was the end of it. As a side note, she had lost her husband a couple of years before and he and I had the same first name, so I actually think this was some kind of transference. Friend of a friend in high school dated the percussion teacher, approximately 45 years old, her senior year. Several of our late-night parties, lock-ins, post-competition celebrations, holiday parties, etc., had those two mysteriously missing. They both denied anything the whole year, but everybody knew. His office was always locked at lunch and she wasn't anywhere to be found. End of the year rolls around, she turns 18, admits they're dating, he quits his job, has his license revoked and is fired. She goes off to college and is determined to make the long-distance thing work. He divorces his pregnant wife and young daughter to make the long-distance thing work. 4 years later, they've split up and she's now engaged to another 40-plus-year-old man. Nobody will talk to her anymore due to the way she treated everyone while they were dating. She's trying to rebuild the bridges she burnt, but nobody wants to meet her halfway on it. My best friend started dating our lecturer in our final year of college. The age gap was 29 years. After she was done studying, they moved in together and she also started working in the same department at the college as he did. They lived together for 4 years and worked together all that time. Then she left him because he flat out refused to marry her. They still worked together after that, but it was kinda weird. And I feel kinda awkward with having a 5-year gap between my girlfriend and me. I don't know. When I'm 80, I don't see why I'd suddenly dislike women in their 20s. If a 21-year-old wants to touch my wrinkly genitals, I'm not gonna say no. I see what you're saying. But I feel like 80-year-old me would be too tired to deal with the bullshit a 21-year-old girl would bring. Especially one that was attracted to an 80-year-old. Our assistant football coach was fresh out of college after playing linebacker at a small FBS school. He would always be very chummy with us, inviting us to hang out at his apartment and picking fights with certain players in practice. He taught junior or senior English in the yearbook class, would always flirt with the girls in class, was determined on being the 20-something-year-old badass the guys looked up to, while reading poetry and acting all intellectual in English class to impress the girls. He slept with a girl a year younger than me, at a graduation party I think, full of all his graduating students. Gross but legal. It was least the one girl. I can't recall if there was a second one later. Nothing came of it, but he took a head coaching job a few years later at a big high school and lost the job when he got busted for having a sexual relationship with a student. Police got a tip, so they bugged one of their phones, got a phone conversation of him being pretty predatory. He pleaded guilty, and last I heard he had gotten out of jail and was working as a bouncer in my hometown, back where it all started. I was 18 and she was mid-30s. I had essays to write but no motivation, so began flirting with her in class instead to pass the time. After a while we started texting each other and it just escalated. One day during college we arranged to meet up for fun, and so I got out of my current class by saying I had a dentist appointment. Picked her up, she was working a half day, and drove somewhere quiet, which thankfully wasn't far since I live in the country. Good times. In fact, one of the only times I've ever felt completely comfortable around a woman despite her being almost double my age and what we were doing. I felt like the luckiest guy alive to have lived the stereotypical, every guy's dream. I returned to class red-faced and sweaty, much to the suspicion of my friends who asked me if it had been raining on the way to the dentist. We met up a few more times after that and it was a lot of fun. Fast forward a few months and it turns out she's married with children. Something she kept damn quiet about. Her husband found out and started texting me saying how he was going to find me, break my legs, knew what I looked like, etc. It's been 7 years now and he hasn't found me yet. I don't talk to my teacher anymore, but we still poke each other on Facebook sometimes. She still has her marriage and I still have my legs, so I look back on it with enjoyment, even if it makes me feel guilty in doing so. It was the craziest few months of my life and I can't recall another time where I felt more alive. I posted this on a thread a few years ago, but here, I started sleeping with my professor of the same ex. It turned into an actual relationship, but we didn't want to label it as one because we thought nothing could ever come of it because she's my superior. Anyways, she's a lesbian and in her mid-30s. And decided to get pregnant via sperm donor. When she told me about her decision, she decided it would probably be best that we ended our relationship once she was pregnant. Well, she got pregnant and we ended it, but she became really depressed without me, so she kinda went batshit crazy. I took her to therapy and tried my best to ensure she was in the right state of mind to carry a child, but it was just too much. She showed up to my apartment a few times in the middle of the night and once she sexually assaulted me. That's when I lost my shit. I filed a TPO against her and never heard from her again. I feel bad for the person who reads their own affair being told by someone else. What about the people reading their husband-wife's affair? Buckle up, mother duckers. When I started in high school, I immediately fell in love with band director. He was smart, snarky, older, and didn't take any of my shit. He was married. I was 13 when I started HS and I obsessed over him for 4 years. Went to practice on the weekends, I played marimba and Avi couldn't bring that home, stayed after school all the time. Sat next to him on the bus because I was teacher's pet when we rode to and from events like football games. I was obsessed. So obsessed. Any and every opportunity I had to hang out with him or impress him, I went for it. Senior year rolls around. I graduate at 17. We text and hang out playing board games with other people. Students and adults, all the time. I turned 18. He was 40. We were texting. What's your favorite curse word? I say, Jesus titty ducking Christ. He replies, I like titty ducking, and that's when I knew I had him. We met up and made out a couple times. He fingered me twice. I wanted and didn't want to go further. I preferred the chase. When I had him, I just felt bad. He had a wife who was amazing. He was so well respected by everyone, including myself, so when the cheating started I just didn't respect him as much, which was part of why I liked him. Eventually his wife found out about the sexting, not the actual act, so we had to break it off. I was kinda glad. He invited me over plenty of times when we could have been alone and actually done the deed. But I was so young and so scared. I wanted him to be my perfect husband, devoted, loving, whatever. So when he actually began to cheat, I lost respect. I liked the fantasy. I didn't want it to actually happen. I will say it was a huge confidence boost. See, all the girls thought he was hot and all the guys thought his wife was hot. So that was cool. But I wish I still had that pedestal view of him, the perfect man. A buddy of mine slept with one of our teachers. He was her top. She was going through a divorce and occasionally they shared a beer and bitched about something stupid a student did, etc. After a few months she started bitching about her husband and the divorce. Then she started bitching about their lack of ex-life. Then my friend humped the teacher. Often. Super seriously. With ex and everything. He told us almost immediately. It went on for the rest of the school year. We were all jealous because she was a good-looking. Still his greatest achievement in life. Someone here already told you to buckle up, so I just want to say make sure you're buckled up still. And if you're not, buckle up, mother duckers. Always wanted to say this. I was a sophomore in high school when this started. I was 15, turning 16 in a few weeks. She was my English teacher. For the first half of the year, it was business as usual. Going to class. Yada yada yada. Fast forward to knowing each other for a few months and having a pretty good friendship. One day, she sends me an instant message on AIM. Before I continue, I actually had no idea how she got my screen name. Till this day I still don't know. Anyways, it's casual talking for a few minutes. Then she tells me she's got a date with my baseball coach. My only response was use protection. She gave me a wink emoji. The next night she IMs me again, telling me about her date, complaining that my baseball coach was a tool. Then she asks me if I thought she was hot. Of course I tell her yes. She was the type of white woman that I wasn't used to. Curvy, thick, great ass, huge tits, etc. So of course, I tell her yes. She asks what was hot about her. I told her how much I liked her ass. Her next question was, how big are you? I thought the most clever response I could give was, you'll have to find out for yourself, winking face. I realize this is kind of dragging, so I'll sum this part up. She asked if I had ever had X. I told her no, and she responded, I think you'll like having X with me. Fast forward past the daily conversations, the passing notes in class, and the dirty texts. We met up twice in her car. The first time we just made out and I got to touch her tits. I was nervous as hell, so when she went to touch me, Lil Magnetic CC wasn't having it. The second time was much better and I got a solid blowjob from her. A few weeks later we decided to go farther and she picked me up after her Saturday tutoring and we drove to her place to do the deed. Now, keep in mind, at this point I was still a virgin. She eased me into it, gave me a drink to relax and whatnot. Now here comes the worst part. A minute or two into it, I have no idea how I did not come yet. She gets her ducking period. Yup. Blood all over my condom, my balls, part of my thighs. OMG. It was the worst and I thought that I would never have X again. I cleaned up and the poor thing spent 30 minutes blowing me to get me going again. Eventually I did, and we went at it. Our sexual relationship lasted a few months consistently. I want to say from March of sophomore year to September of junior year. And then I made the worst mistake ever. I got a girlfriend and stupid me preferred the inexperienced douchebag girl. She was a mega bitch to the experienced gorgeous woman who wanted nothing more than to be pounded by me and swallow my load. My then, now ex, thank God, GF would break up frequently, and when we did, my teacher was there to make me feel better. Whether it was blowjobs in her office or driving to her place, motel after school. It was great. Sometimes she would send me nudes when she knew I was away from my then GF. My then GF did find out about the relationship because she happened to see a text from said teacher, diff name in contact list, and put 2 and 2 together whenever my teacher asked her how I was doing. But she never told. A few years later my teacher did eventually end up getting caught with another student. All over the news and stuff. I think she avoided jail time, but I'm not sure. I tried searching for her on the ex-offender registry but no luck. Like and subscribe.